What's going on, everybody? Rob here, aka Trev2323. Today a little concrete project. This, as you can see, has a crack all the way across it. Well, it sunk in right here and it made this the low spot, so all the water from the side of the house would sit right here, which happens to be where the main beam will be. So I had to figure out how. I was actually going to cut this out here and cut this out here, but we're putting a deck over this whole area right here. So I just need to lift it and level it and make it last for maybe another 100 years. So people say you need jacks, you need this, you need that. You see a pitchfork with a brick prop. That's a long tire iron prybar with a brick block and a shovel right there is what I lifted it with. But you cannot lift it on its own. You see, everything was kind of got out of all the cracks, because believe it or not, if there's dirt and rocks and everything in there, it makes it so much harder to lift. So all I used was a vacuum, was a blower, and was an air gun to get this clean. Look how good that is cleaned out now. So with it as cleaned out as it is, I'm able to move the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing is moving right here. Although I don't want to break it anymore, that's where it's going to stay. But since I'm doing this one, this is cracked in right here. Now this berm right here was because when we first moved in, the neighbor has a large concrete block, so a lot of water was coming here and going here. So I put that berm to keep it out that way. But I guess it created a low spot right here where this started going down. So this berm is going to get broken up when we do the deck. That pipe is going to be under the deck. That's why it's there, and that's for the solar panels from the garage to the house. So that will be under the deck. But this pipe is actually going to go out because the 2x6s are going this way. Alright, so right now, since I'm going to do that, this had a temporary fix right here. So I'm going to dig all this and get all this out of here now. And I'm going to probably break this out right here. This, I'm going to cut that with a diamond blade diagonally evenly and probably break this out right here. This might break up some, but there's another way I've seen people doing it, but I'm not gonna do it. You know, if you're trying to lift all this or whatever, I bought this for my ex-girlfriend, large gap filler. Ha ha ha, kidding. But people buy 6 cans of these, drill holes in all this and fill it in and lift it that way. I'm actually gonna mix concrete and mortar, and I'm gonna concrete underneath as far as I could get it. I'm gonna dig out more and concrete underneath as much as I could get it on both sides, and then with the thin part of the concrete, no rocks, I'm gonna fill in all these gaps right here with no rocks, just the thin part of the concrete right here. So this right here, I was thinking about drilling the holes and using the big gap filler, but I don't want any problems with this since we're putting a deck over it, so I'm going to go ahead and break it out. Now what happens is you get cracks in your concrete like this, and over the winter time and everything, these cracks right here freeze and thaw, freeze and thaw, freeze and thaw, so they crack more. So let me show you what I did in the front. This is the city's sidewalk, not ours. I gotta kill the weed, but that's Loctite epoxy right there, and it was a crack in there. You see a little bit cracked out, so I want to put some more, and that's just Loctite epoxy so it does not break anymore, because when it freezes and thaws, freezes and thaws, freezes and thaws, you actually get a break in the concrete. And so that's been like that, and I have not gotten the break in the concrete. This is the Loctite self-mixing epoxy, so I am going to put some more on what chipped out, and over here I'm gonna put some more over here, some over here. See this? All that'll break out next winter. So I'm gonna do that also. So as you can see, with something of this size to break out and lift, like I said, that was broken off and that was sunken in about 1.5 inches where all the water was sitting there, I was able to lift it with manual tools and clean it out to get it to lift. Now for this right here, I'm actually gonna try to cut a square or cut something right here. Not on that one because I want that stable, but I want to break this up a little bit to see if I can lift this right here. I have a diamond concrete blade on an angle grinder. so all this is broken up. So now what I'm gonna do is clean this out really good, and I might possibly be able to just lift this with the crowbar and fill this in also. The concrete really is broken. It's supposed to be about 4 inches solid of concrete, and right here the concrete is only like maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches thick, and that's probably why it failed or washed out from underneath it. You see, this is really thin. I didn't think the angle grinder was going to be able to get from the top to the bottom, but it did. It went all the way through it. And so I got a crowbar right now, and I'll show you right here. So how I'm gonna reach this. Broke my rubber glove already. This is just coming apart when I hit it with a small sledgehammer. I'm just sitting here with a cup of coffee, and this is just coming apart. Not even with a big sledgehammer. So I'm gonna take my time, enjoy some coffee, and get as big as part I need to make this level. Okay, as I was digging, it just kept disintegrating to sand. There's like a pocket underneath here. So I started breaking this out just to connect it with the square around that. And this is all hollow underneath it. So I just cut a straight line right here and a straight line with the seam. And then I'm gonna get a straight line on this right here. This jagged with the angle grinder and the diamond bit. And then that's what I'm gonna concrete in. I'm gonna do this before that because I got 5 bags of concrete. So I wanna make sure I get this done before I get that done. Let the speed do the cut for you. See, I got the straight line right there. That's just an angle grinder with a bit. And then you let the speed do the cut for you. This one cracked underneath. I didn't go deep enough, so it cracked underneath. So I'm probably gonna cut this up right here and finish filling in that right there. I might cut it up to right here. That took about 25 minutes. All right, I had to cut the block off right there because the block was on the line, so it was breaking apart right in there anyway, so I cut that up. You could use the leaf blower and anything like that. Oh, I gotta put the air on. You can also use the leaf blower. Kind of gives you an idea what you're looking at. All right, you see how a lot of this just washed out. This was supposed to be thicker concrete. This was supposed to be thicker. This is just super thin. This is what's holding up the house right here in this corner. So I'm going to go ahead and try to break off and chip off as much of this little stuff right here that's not going really good and fill this in with good stuff. This right here got to be replaced. I could already know this beam has to be replaced. My wife wants to replace it anyway. She wants to get rid of it altogether, okay? But I would have to figure out a way to make a decorative something to come off the house to here and come off the house to here to hold this corner up above my pay grade. Got to get an architect. All right, we're in for about 45 minutes. Now my worst part ever. I hate cleaning up. I'm gonna fill in this right now on the board. This is gonna be replaced. I'm shooting screws into the decking so I could always remove the decking around this right here. Concrete it in right here. I gotta tamp this down. Get this really smooth. Got some pieces of rebar I'm gonna put in there. Hate having to move that. This I would venture to say is gonna be about 4 bags, maybe 5 bags of concrete. The loose rocks, try to get all the loose rocks off, because when you're putting the concrete down and pushing down in it, you're gonna try to get it underneath all this. So just try to get all these, whatever loose rocks are underneath there, just try to get some of them out. And then we're gonna put fresh concrete down underneath there. I'm gonna tamp all this down. I got a 50-pound weight. I'm gonna tamp it all down in the middle so it's nice and solid. I'm just trying to get the big loose rocks out. Whatever big loose rocks are out, because when we're working with the new concrete, we're hoping that it fills in underneath all this old loose stuff. See, like all the little gaps. There's no way this should have been that thin. It's a 1910 Chicago bungalow. Now there's like a rubber piece that you could put around this, because what happens when you put concrete up to concrete right here, it starts to with the cold and the rain, it drips in between the concrete and freezes, and that's what cracks up concrete. So there's a rubber coating you could put, but I'm not going to do that. After everything dries, after it dries really good, I'm going to put self-leveling paintable concrete, and it fills the gaps. So technically, if I didn't want to put anything solid in here and say you just had the crack right there, you could fill that in there so no water would go in there to crack. But instead of, I don't got the rubber pieces to put in between here right now, so I'm going to put the concrete down, and over the crack I'm going to put that in here. Little by little with the prybar, this is leaning that way. That was all the way that way. So little by little, I got the bubble almost level. Now this right here, got a brick, I'm moving here to here to here to here, little by little, and it's budging. Okay, this side's flowing that way, that side's flowing that way, they're both flowing that way. This angle has to come up a little bit more. All right, so that's up right where I want it. Big crowbar. The crowbar moved this back and forth. I got to blow that out a little bit when it rained. It filled in a little bit. Okay, so this is all leveled exactly like I need. It comes this way, keeps going off, or goes out into the area. What I've used to fill these in right here, can't find them anywhere right now. I use rocks, like big rocks like these. When I dug to the bottom, say I dug to the bottom, and then I filled in with a big rock to just hold it up. See, so that's holding it up. So I'm gonna dig to the sides of what's holding it up, and that's where I'm gonna put the new concrete. Everything's blown out. All the holes underneath are dug out, propped up with a couple rocks, so the concrete I can shove underneath the new concrete. Probably gonna dig this one out a little bit better. 50 pounds. Time to start compacting. Pick it up, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it. Has some long deck screws I never used. I'm trying to angle them into the ground, underneath ground, just to kind of tie the concrete together with what I'm laying down here. Also, I might just throw some in the middle for like rebar, because I have them. All right, this is in the concrete class, so mix your concrete to your right consistency and start filling in. Since I got the biggest one there and I'm limited concrete, I'm gonna do that first, because I could always tuck this in with something else, fill this in with something else. So I'm gonna do that first. Now you gotta wet it with a hose, because that, people put plastic, people put this. Just wet it with a hose really good. For something this small. I'm not doing a pad or nothing like that. I'm just doing something this small, and I'm leveling it. I don't want the low spots, because this is where the deck is going to be, and that post is going to be underneath in the deck. All right, so how does the tire work out? There's a tire with the foam sticking out of it. It's what I had on hand. I got concrete in a wheelbarrow right now. It's not all the way solid, but there's 50 pounds of concrete, 40 pounds of concrete. So I would venture to say it held me through today. Okay, right now we're filling in with concrete. It looks a little bit wet, but I'm in full sun right now. So this last one I'm not gonna do as wet, but I'm trying to, it's right now it's still low spot. I gotta make it a little bit higher spot, and then I can form it. But we started coming around the post right now, and then we're gonna fill in around there with the concrete I have left. And there you are, Bob's your uncle. Okay, but here's one thing with the broom. Everybody tries to get it perfectly smooth, but I actually brush it. And why I brush it is because I don't want my grandkids slipping on it when they come off the bottom step. So that's why I brush it. All the way, that connected tight into that, connected to that. Okay, well, I'm gonna go around this curve with an edger